How can a cold case stay unsolved for decades only to be cracked open by a single breakthrough? In today's video, where we dive into 5 chilling cases that remained mysteries for years until modern technology uncovered the shocking truths. Stay tuned as we uncover how justice was finally served decades later. Don't forget to like, subscribe to our YouTube channel Court Capture, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our latest updates on real-life cases and mysteries. A common sentiment among families of victims whose cases go cold is the despair of thinking the truth might never emerge. However, recent technological advances have increasingly breathed new life into cases where leads had gone cold, providing answers that seemed unattainable. This progress has brought closure to families who feared they would never see justice served. Below, we explore 3 remarkable cases that were solved decades later, thanks to advancements in investigative techniques and DNA technology. Christine Jessup. Christine Jessup's disappearance in 1984 became one of Canada's most infamous cold cases. 9-year-old Christine went missing from her home in Queensville, near Toronto, after her family left to visit her incarcerated father. Upon their return, Christine was gone. The community searched tirelessly, but their hopes were dashed when her body was found 3 months later, 31 miles away, showing signs of assault and stabbing. Initially, her neighbor, Guy Paul Morin, was arrested in 1985 and convicted in 1992 after a lengthy legal battle. However, DNA evidence later proved his innocence, highlighting significant flaws in the police investigation. Moran was exonerated and awarded compensation, but the case went cold for years. In 2020, breakthroughs in genetic genealogy finally identified Christine's killer, Calvin Hoover, a family friend who had even participated in her search and attended her funeral. Hoover, however, had died in 2015, leaving many unanswered questions. While this revelation brought some relief, it also underscored the complexities of finding justice posthumously. Carla Walker. In 1974, 17-year-old Carla Walker's abduction and murder shocked Fort Worth, Texas. Carla was last seen with her boyfriend Rodney McCoy at a bowling alley. A stranger opened their unlocked car door, dragged Carla out, and assaulted Rodney before disappearing with her. Her body was discovered days later, showing evidence of torture, assault, and strangulation. Despite collecting DNA evidence at the time, technological limitations prevented investigators from finding a match. Years passed with no significant progress until 2019, when renewed interest in Carla's case prompted authorities to revisit the evidence. Advances in DNA sequencing led investigators to Glenn Samuel McCurley, whose DNA matched the sample found on Carla's clothing. In 2020, McCurley was arrested and charged with capital murder, finally bringing answers to Carla's family after 46 years. McCurley later made dubious claims about the night of Carla's death, but his trial is expected to provide further clarity and justice for the Walker family. Fawn Cox. A family's unexpected reckoning. In 1989, 16-year-old Fawn Cox returned home after a late shift at Worlds of Fun amusement park in Kansas City. She went to bed, but the next morning her sister found her lifeless body in her room. Someone had entered through her window during the night, assaulted her, and strangled her while her family slept, unaware of the tragedy unfolding. Despite extensive investigations, no suspects were identified, and the case grew cold. It wasn't until decades later that advancements in DNA technology provided a breakthrough. A DNA profile developed from evidence collected at the crime scene identified the perpetrator, someone known to the family. While the revelation brought closure, it also caused a deep reckoning for Fawn's loved ones, as the truth was far more personal than they had imagined. The role of technology in justice. These cases highlight the transformative power of technology in solving cold cases. Genetic genealogy, advanced DNA sequencing, and persistent investigative work are offering hope to families who feared their loved ones' stories would remain untold. As these tools become more refined, justice is within reach for countless victims, even decades after the crimes occurred. These stories remind us that while the path to resolution can be long, truth and closure are possible, bringing peace to grieving families and ensuring that justice is not bound by time. Solved cold cases. Fawn Cox, a killer within the family. On July 26, 1989, 16-year-old Fawn Cox was found murdered in her Kansas City home. Investigators concluded the attack was targeted as the perpetrator accessed her specific window and left undetected, leading them to believe the killer likely knew her. While DNA evidence was collected, technology at the time could not process it. 3 teenagers were initially charged but were released due to insufficient evidence. One even spent 8 months in jail before the case against him fell apart. A $10,000 reward and efforts by Crime Stoppers led nowhere, and for decades, Fawn's case remained cold. In 2020, with advanced DNA testing funded by the FBI, Fawn's killer was identified as her cousin, Donald Cox Jr., who had died from an overdose in 2006. Fawn's family went public with the revelation, expressing mixed feelings of relief and devastation. Her sister Felisa said, "The answers aren't always what we are asking for, but there's closure." Margaret Peggy Beck. A scout camp nightmare. In August 1963, 16-year-old Peggy Beck was assaulted and murdered during a Girl Scout camping trip in Colorado. Left alone in her tent due to a sick tent mate, Peggy was discovered zipped inside her sleeping bag the next morning. Initially believed to have died of natural causes, bruises on her neck soon pointed to strangulation. The contaminated crime scene, caused by scout leaders cleaning up the area, hindered investigators. Despite evidence of a struggle and DNA under Peggy's fingernails, the case went cold for decades. In 2020, genealogical DNA testing finally identified her killer, James Raymond Taylor, a TV repairman who had frequented the area. However, Taylor vanished in the 1970s, and his current whereabouts remain unknown. While Peggy's sisters finally have some closure, the search for Taylor continues, with law enforcement determined to hold him accountable. Christopher Alvin Daly, a killer's shocking confession. On April 26, 1995, 26-year-old Christopher Daly was found murdered near a logging road in Huntsville, Alabama. He had been shot in the head, and his car was found submerged in the Tennessee River with a rock tied to the accelerator. Christopher had last been seen at a work meeting for the Hilton Hotel where he was employed. Despite thorough investigations, no suspects were identified, and the case went cold for 25 years. Then, in November 2020, police received an extraordinary call from 53-year-old Johnny Dwight Whited, who confessed to the murder. Initially, Detective Sean McAdam thought it was a prank, but Whited provided details only the killer could know, including reenacting the crime scene. Whited, terminally ill at the time, cited remorse as his reason for coming forward. While he refused to discuss his motive, he revealed he didn't know Christopher and had only met him moments before the murder. The confession brought long-awaited answers to Christopher's family. Advances in technology, bringing justice after decades. The resolution of these cases highlights the power of DNA and forensic advancements in solving decades-old mysteries. From Fawn Cox's family discovering a painful truth, to Peggy Beck's sisters uncovering their sister's killer, and Christopher Daly's murderer confessing out of guilt, these cases underline the importance of persistence in seeking justice. While answers do not always bring peace, they provide families with closure and an opportunity to remember their loved ones beyond the tragedy that defined their loss. Thank you for watching. These cases remind us that justice can take time, but it never gives up. What are your thoughts on these incredible breakthroughs? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel Court Capture for more stories that uncover the truth, one mystery at a time. See you in the next video.